Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Series, a month-long event celebrating the authors and narrators that bring romance stories to life. Listen along as Viviana, Enchantress of Books, interviews your favorite writers and voices, share special guest posts, and stay tuned for some special information at the conclusion of the episode.
Hi, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with guest narrator Laurie West. Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Series, Laurie. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great, and I'm just really excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you and get to know you better. So with that being said, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, how you got into audiobooks, all that fun stuff.
Sure. Yeah. My first book was, back in, it would have been 2015. I did my first book, and it was with Brilliance Publishing. And I just really discovered I had a niche for romance, and things kind of took off from there. I was a part-time narrator for a little while, and then I switched to full-time not too long ago. It's been a couple of years now. I got into it. I started out doing theater when I was younger, and we had a family friend who told my mom that my mom should take me into a voiceover studio. And that I had a really nice voice, and my mom was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And I of course was like, I think I was 15 at the time, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be famous. So I made her take me into the studio, and was told that I did have a good, I think his words were, the microphone loves your voice. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be Miley Cyrus. So I made a demo, and things kind of took off from there. I started out doing commercial voiceover work predominantly, and then sent my demo off to Brilliance, and the rest is history. And there we go.
Wow. I love that when they tell us that we're good at something as kids,
Yeah.
and we're like, automatically, we're going to be famous.
Yeah. It started out as like a hobby. I mean, it was kind of like I made some mad money, making, one voiceover job when you're a kid. You're like, oh my God, I'm rich, because you don't have to pay a mortgage.
Yep. Or anything else.
Yeah. So I saved up some money for college, and then, turned it into a full career about 10 or so years later. And now I've been, going at it full time now for 2 years, and I'm going on, 8 years of books. So
that's awesome. I love it when that becomes like, I can now do this full time,
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
goals.
It was never really the intent. It just sort of happened that way. And, here we are. So
yeah, with the way that the audiobook world is growing, I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And again, it's so versatile because, like you said, from audiobooks to voiceover commercials, and now people are like, the next step in the ladder is like animation or video games, and many options.
That's a goal for me. I would love to like voice a Disney princess someday or something.
Oh,
something like that. But yeah, right now it's fun to be able to do acting all the time and get to wear my pajamas while I do it if I want to. So
messy
that's
hair
always a
bun.
bonus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. If only more of us had able to have that luxury of that. I mean, someone else also had asked me about like, hey, well, if you want to go back into the office for the day job, would you? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because there's no puppies in the day job.
Yep. There you go.
Someone annoys me via email because I didn't read my previous email, and I am not allowed to write per my previous email. I, can go outside to my living room and pet my dogs for a little bit. And I'm like, I'm zenned out. I can't do that.
Yeah. You kind of center yourself a little bit, and just there you go.
Yeah. But I am thrilled that you're able to do this full time. And that's also great for us because that means more books.
Yay.
So starting from the voiceover, doing commercials and things like that, processes are a little different, but at the same time, similar a little bit when it comes down to how you prep the script. And then also in this case, the book. Have you found that your process has changed now that you're doing this significantly more often and years later?
Yeah, I think the biggest learning curve for me. So when you do commercial voice work, you're selling something usually. I mean, or you're teaching someone how to do something if it's an industrial and you're, click here and do this, but you're just trying to sound pleasant and to get a point across. And with audiobooks, it's really a totally different animal. And I remember my first book that I did, they literally had found my demo like stuck to the bottom of someone's filing cabinet and, called me out of the blue. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, okay, I'm just going to go here and do this. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, you're really good at this. I'm like, I am. Okay, great, cool. I have no idea why. And, then I start looking into more training and stuff because I'd had training for commercial voice work, but I had not for books. And I think the biggest thing was the idea that it wasn't just sound pleasant. It was all of a sudden, okay, change your pitch, do things to make yourself sound interesting, because otherwise you're going to put people to sleep. And, they're going to be, which is fine if you're working for the Calm app or whatever.
Absolutely.
And, but if you're really trying to tell a story. And then the other huge thing is obviously different characters and keeping them straight and being able to dive back in, because we get paid by the hour, as in finished hour. So however long it takes me to provide that finished hour, that's on me. And so you learn ways to be more efficient and ways to, be able to put out a superior product while still not selling your soul to the devil and working 72 hours a day. So
Plus
I
your
think
voice, don't think can keep that up either. I mean,
yeah, well, weirdly, and I knock on wood when I say this, I have never in my life lost my voice. I think it's because I was in an all-city kids choir when I was growing up, and we toured, and we had a pretty strenuous schedule for a bunch of like middle and high school kids. And I was popping off like high G sharps as a soprano at like age 11 and thinking nothing of it. And I think I just was trained at such an early age to have the muscles that I was just able to keep those up and never lose that. So again, I knock on wood when I say it, and watch, I'm probably gonna like lose my voice tomorrow or something.
you're fine.
But
We'll burn some sage later. We're good.
Yeah, it's weird. I've just never, I mean, I've had like congestion, and you have days where you've got a cold and you can't do it because you don't sound like you. But I mean, I've never had that problem. So I've been told by a lot of engineers and other people on that side of the industry that I'm very efficient and a bit of a freak of nature with how much I can record in a day and how quickly I do things. So I not to be arrogant, but like, I went into it and they're like, wow, you're fast. I'm like, am I? Okay. Like I have nothing to compare it to. So, but then the more books I did and the more engineers I worked with and the more often I was told it, I learned that, okay, I do have a sort of special, sort of God-given, I guess it would be like being tall as a basketball player. I don't know, just some kind of an innate, like, whatever.
Well,
So,
there's again, we all have our skill sets that we were born with, and then things that we're innately good at without knowing how the hell we became good at it. And this is one of your gifts, so that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I'll take it. So
yeah, I mean, you touched on that whole like per finished hour getting paid and how is this so with your proficiency on this, are you at that rate where it's like 2 hours for every one finished hour ratio, or you're less than that?
I typically am between just recording is about 1.5, 2 if it's a difficult, like lots of characters, lots of accents. It really depends if I'm doing any accents or anything like that. But if it's a more straight up like a romance that I've done that kind of stuff a lot, no abnormal voices and it's just my voice, I can usually do 1.5.
Nice. That's good. I bring that because I know sometimes people think that they don't know how the back end of things work. And I love kind of bringing that information to the front because people tend to think, oh, you just sit there in the booth, all very comfy, and you just talking to the mic. Yeah. And it's like, no, honey, they're there for hours. And then that one word they get stuck with.
I cannot say the word maternity. I just said it now, but I can't, like, if you put it in a sentence and I'm trying to like not focus on it and hyperfixate and actually make it sound normal and part of a sentence, it will take me 5 hours to do. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know why I start swearing a lot. It gets very colorful. But yeah, I don't know why maternity is such a problem.
Yeah, we all have our words. Mine is spaghetti. See how I pronounce it? Spaghetti. Or car. I always go with the Boston. I'm not from Boston. I went there one time many years ago, and that word stuck.
Park the car.
Park the car. Yeah,
you gotta park the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's just like it happens. So I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I know about it. And I see some of you guys doing the TikToks and the IG stories and again, the stuck of the word. And I'm going, oh, I get you. I understand, because even doing this with you guys we're talking, but there's sometimes a word that comes up, or my favorite, like there's a last name and I'm going, oh, I'm going to butcher this shit the fuck up so badly.
Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's a trip. That's for sure.
Do you get to work with the author or get information from the author when it comes down to some of this information of the story, whether there's accent, specific cadences for a character, anything like that can help you figure out how to make these characters sound?
Yeah, generally, if I'm working with a publisher directly, it's a big faux pas to contact the author directly. You go through the publisher, and we are told, that's why the author hired the publisher, make them the middleman. You shouldn't ever be talking to the author directly. And I will go to my contact at the publishing company and say, hey, I'm working on this book by so-and-so. And there's usually like a point person, the project manager or whatever. And I will go to them and say, hey, this last name, what does the author want? They will then contact the author and get back to me with the answer. And there's usually an author Q&A that they fill out before I start production that will say, like, these are specific locales and here's how they're pronounced. These are specific words that the author has made up if it's a fantasy or whatever. These are, sort of a way for them to say before we start production, this is the way I want it. And then as soon as we start production, it's out of the author's hands. And that's kind of where they turn it over to us and let us do our side of things. And the author isn't really allowed to micromanage. With ACX work, which is the independent platform, the audiobook creation, I think it's audiobook creation, something or other. Anyway, those are all independently done. And that's when we are, as narrators, we're responsible for also providing any of the engineering, any of the, the entire production, if you will. And in that case, we are working directly with the author because they've chosen not to go through a publisher. And they do have a little bit more freedom, if you will, on saying to us, like, hey, here's how we would like this done. But I also will put my foot down and say, okay, you've done enough. Like, I'm not going to redo this 6 times because you want it. Like, you need to just let me do what I'm going to do. And obviously we're giving them a product and we want them to be satisfied with the final result. I mean, they're paying us for a service and we want them to be happy. But especially if it's something like an acting choice and it's like, no, I made my choice and I'm going to stick to that. And you don't really get to tell me otherwise, unless it's something glaring that is just like, no, I really didn't see it this way. And a lot of times authors are so close to it and they have it in their head that can get hard. But I've been very fortunate so far and have not had too many issues. And recently I asked one author and I said, are there any specific voices that you would like any of the characters to have? Does so-and-so have any sort of accent or what have you? And she goes, I leave that up to you. And I went, oh my, thank God. Like you were my new favorite person. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and a lot of times when you audition for a book or when a publisher will come to you and say, hey, I've got a book available, they'll give you a heads up and say, hey, there's a person with a really strong, Boston accent. Can you do it? And then you have the right to say like, ooh, I don't know if I can swing that, or I don't know if I can do it justice or what have you. So
Well, that's good. I think with any art, the artist is really close to the product and
oh,
their
absolutely.
baby and things like that. And handing it over for interpretation is hard. I mean,
no
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. But I
yeah.
love the fact that you have those boundaries, because there's a reason why you are a narrator and you're as successful as you are. And they have to trust you. You're welcome. I had I've done a couple of castings, and I had one book where I was doing a lot more as far as like project management on this thing. And there's like, hey, is she pronouncing this with I'm like, insert name. Stop. It's supposed to be that way. Go away.
Yeah, just let it be.
Friends. And so I could tell her that, without, losing a client.
Right. Well, and I always say, like, I'll say straight up right at the beginning of production, I'll say to the author, like, are there any like absolute, deal breakers, if you will, or absolute must-haves that you want out of this production? And then once I've given you that carte blanche chance, that's it. You don't get to come to me halfway through production and say, can you try it like this? Because at that point I've put in hours.
Yeah.
But that's why I always try to do it up front, because then you're covered. And I get that. I don't want to sit there and say, this is how I can't work like this. This is how I'm going to do it. I mean, it's not, I'm not going to do that, but I have had authors that have said, I want you to upload chapters as you go. So that I can give you feedback. And I was like, nope, sorry, that's not the way this works, because I would never get the book done. So you just have to, and a lot of times in my experiences, it has not been because the author is like this holier than thou oracle. It's that they don't know. They don't know how the process works. So and if I set the boundary, they're like, oh, okay, all right, you do you, and my bad, I didn't realize that was how it's done. And then they back off. So,
and some of them are grateful because they felt that maybe they had to be that involved and they didn't want to.
Right. And they're like, oh, thank God that I can just let you take the reins and you do part of it. And it's been, I've been very fortunate with that. Like, I have not had too many.
I'm glad that you take the time to educate as well, because a lot of authors are like, I'm going to do audiobooks, and they don't understand that there's a whole ass process and that it takes time and things, as well as money. But yeah, it's one of the things that I also do is I say, hey, this is the process. The production company takes care of everything. You are in the loop. And some production companies completely run with it and don't even give any information to the author. And some will walk with hands. So it's good that you take the time to, and that way they have a better experience, I think, anyways, going forward.
Yeah, I try. I mean, that's that's the only thing I can do, is just to communicate. I mean, if there's one thing I know how to do, it's talk. So
good thing you're good at it, huh?
Yeah, I try. What can I say?
Speaking of talking and things like that, and having these voices that we can listen to for hours on end, especially since books are like 8+ hours most of the time. One thing that we are very a sucker for in this romance community are accents.
Yes.
I'm sure that, as you know. What is your favorite accent to perform, though?
I've gotten really, I hate to say this because somebody's going to listen to this and be like, I've heard her X accent and it's terrible. I've been told by several authors that are from the South that my general Southern accent is good. I don't know the specific ins and outs of like a Texas accent versus a Georgia accent and things like that, but I've been told that my general Southern drawl or Southern twang is pleasant to listen to. So I've enjoyed honing that because I've been told it's decent. My first accent I ever learned was British because I was in a production of Oliver Twist when I was a wee one, and I remember being like the only kid that could actually do it. Everybody else was like staring at me like I was an alien from another planet. But I think my favorite to do is probably like a New York.
Really?
I just really enjoy the brashness. I shouldn't say New York. I should say like I like to do a character that's like a really brash New York, like almost like a Fran Drescher type, kind of just in your face. Like that's a really fun character to sink my teeth into usually. And for me, it's more about the personality than just the accent. I have to have like because otherwise I don't feel like I can really sink my teeth into the accent well enough to do it justice. And I'm from the Midwest, which is probably evident in some of my accent. I mean, we get very nasally at times, but I've also learned things that we do in the Midwest that are not good. Things like throwing away, like we say didn't, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, instead of putting a T on the end of it. So I've learned how to like make sure I don't do that. Little things like that you are taught, like, oh, I didn't realize I did that. Okay, my bad, I'll stop. But it's just fun to just play with that. And I love accents because they help you discern the characters better. So like if I've got a book with like 12 men in it and they're like, oh yeah, one's British and one's got a New York accent and and I'm like, oh, thank God, something to help me tell these guys apart. Because so yeah, definitely New York or Jersey, my favorite to do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes authors are now being more aware of this could potentially be an audiobook.
Yeah.
And adding some of that descriptive, but at the same time, I also wonder, like, they're going, insert evil voice. I'm going to put all the guys or all the girls in the same room and they're talking.
God, I hate that. Oh man. I call it like the Grease phenomena, where you have like all the girls at the sleepover and then you have all the guys, like the next chapter is all of them talking. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. So
now I'm going to be like, tell me more, tell me.
Yeah. I'm like, why are they all together all the time? This is not natural.
We have a car. See, there you go.
Yep, exactly. So it's that definitely puts you through your paces. And can give you a headache. But I get it. I would never tell an author not to write a certain way just for you need to tell the story how you want to tell the story.
Yeah, but I will tell you, there are those authors out there, and I know one specifically that does it to Scott Brooks all the time. And it's one of those where he throws in an accent just to see if he can fucking do it.
I would believe that. I actually heard that J.K. Rowling did that to her voice actor that did the whole Harry Potter series. He could not say the word pocketed it, like Harry pocketed it in his cloak. Pocketed it. He couldn't do it. And so she found out he couldn't do it, and she purposefully put it in every single subsequent book just to drive him crazy. So I'm sure they exist, yes. And I probably, unbeknownst to me, there's probably authors that I've worked with that maybe are sitting there thinking, oh, Laurie's gonna have to do this. I'm gonna put this in here just to mess with her. But
yeah, I kind of find that especially when it comes down to like the one that I was referring to, Scott has narrated his books all the time, so they've built a relationship of sorts.
Sure, yeah.
And so now it's one of those, haha, fucker, I'm gonna get you. Like,
friends, they have a rapport, so he can he can mess with him a little bit and just be like, haha. Yeah.
But definitely. I also love that you said about the personality coming out, because I don't care how much of a sexy accent it might be. For an example, when they say, like, if a British goes, hey love, or the Southern goes, darling.
Yeah.
If the personality is not there,
it's not
gonna be sexy.
I really like, I think that's something that I like, that I have a theatrical background, because I feel like that really adds it adds a layer of, being able to understand the true nuances of a character as opposed to just creating a voice. And I get images in my head of what I think this character might look like or how they carry themselves or whatever. And I think it helps me kind of bring that out
Mm-hmm.
a little more.
So what about the opposites? The hardest accent for you to perform so far?
Oh geez. So when I have to do like not general British, but a specific like either Irish or Scottish or Welsh or any like slight variation on like a general, it always comes out sounding like Kristen Chenoweth or something like mixed with like, I don't know, I can't think of it comes out Southern and British mixed together, and it just always sounds horrific. And it takes me a while to get into the specific cadence of those different dialects. But yeah, I would definitely say those. Really anything too specific, I say to authors, like, I can do general Southern, general East Coast, general British, but the minute you tell me you want Welsh from, I don't know, Cork County or something, that's Ireland, but whatever. The minute you tell me you want a specific region, I start sweating, because then I'm like, okay, now people from that region are going to be judging me and I'm not going to be doing it justice and what have you. So it just, I do worry about, and I'm big on just respect of, I'm aware I have an accent to someone from the South. We all have different, so I don't ever want to be like a stereotype or a trope either. And I just want to be respectful of that.
Yeah, you don't ever want to do the Irish from the Lucky Charms
character.
Yeah. No, I get it.
It's hard, and I think that sometimes that is what comes out, and I just think about that a lot, and I'm like, man, I hope people know that I'm not trying to mock or make fun of any of this. It's just trying to do the best I can with my own particular vocal parameters and make it work.
Yeah, I know. It's also kind of hard too, because it's like, and I think in any other industry, you would be able to get the item in question and do some product knowledge, and learn and things like that, and spend some time in the area to kind of get a better understanding. So unless they're going to take you over there to England,
right? Yeah.
So from accent learn, it's hard. It's really hard. But here's the thing. I'm always told, you have some sort of an accent, I just can't place it. I'm going, yes, because I'm mysterious that way. It's from Florida, dude. It's from South Florida. This is what we sound like. And also the fact that I'm bilingual, adds to it. But this is where I say to individuals when they are concerned about the accent is there have been two separate instances in which, one, the review said, oh my God, his Irish was so bad. You can barely blah, 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 fill in the negative reviews. The narrator is from Ireland. He is Irish.
Oh boy.
And then the other one was similar. Oh my God, his British accent is so fake. He's from England.
See, and that's the thing. I read an article recently. It was about, I read it I was flying somewhere and I was reading in like the Airplane magazine. They had an article on Liam Neeson, and he was talking about what he says to directors when they say, can you do a blank accent? He'll say, yeah, I can do it. I'm working on it and I want to get better at it, but we're all mongrels anyway, so who cares? And I was like, I like that. That's a really good, like, who has, nobody has this, perfect, that's not normal, I mean, that we're all a mishmash, and we all
50 years ago, maybe, because traveling wasn't a huge thing and things like that. And there was more for sure, but now we're like all over the place.
Right. So I kind of was like, what, if it's good enough for him, that's going to be good enough for me. And I'm just going to, I mean, people are always going to have opinions and, you know, think that it should sound a certain way, and I do that too. I am such a snob. You know, if I'm listening to something on TV or whatever, and I don't like the person's voice, I'll be like, oh man. But, you know, we all have those preferences and preconceived notions, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, just like I've got my own opinions and preferences. So, you know, you have to just kind of go with it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. I mean, it's an art. It's just like when we go to the museum and this thing is hanging on the wall and everybody's going, ooh, ah, and there's a price tag attached to it for like $1 million. And literally it is only a white canvas with one black dot on it.
Right. And you're
I'm
like, oh man,
I could have done that in like second grade.
Right.
Where's my million? Why am I not famous?
It's killer.
It's an art. Yeah, it's an art, and everybody, you know, it affects people differently. It's the same thing with book world. I've read reviews and I'm going, did we read the same book? Because it's not a 5-star.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a 3-star.
I do not agree, but okay.
I'm like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you found pleasure and that you found the joy in it. Me, that was a DNF. Thank you. Bye.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Yeah, dude, have fun with it. Which is one of the reasons why I do love romance, is because it seems that there's something for everybody. And romance, the way that I've always described it, is like an umbrella term with all the different subgenres underneath it. Mm-hmm. And we have, you know, the contemporaries and the paranormal and things like that. Plus now I think there's a huge focus more on tropes versus the genres. Yeah. But is there a genre that is your favorite to narrate?
Oh boy. I would have to say, I really enjoy certain historical periods, but I'm picky. So it has to be like one that I'm interested in. You know, I'll obviously enjoy any historical genre, but I mean, if it's in the 20s through the 40s, sign me up. That is my most favorite era in history, hands down. I'm completely obsessed with all of the Roaring 20s and then the gangsters and the whole romance of that time period and all of that. So I would say if it's set in that time period, definitely a bonus. I really like ones that have an additional element of plot, whether it be a thriller aspect or like a rescue situation or something like that. I don't really enjoy the ones where it's just straight up sex. I mean, those are great. Like, you know, that's obviously get right to the point, but like in terms of narrating, that's not my favorite. I like it when there's an extra element in there. So I would say probably like a romantic thriller. Yeah, romantic. There we go. That's the term. Yeah, romantic suspense. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I love those, but at the same time, I'm yelling at my device. You're getting shot at. Stop thinking about kissing her.
Right. Yeah, you've got time for that later. Get out first.
Yeah. Things are exploding. Stop making out in the hallway. You know?
Yeah.
But that's, I think that's kind of the fun.
I always think of that part in Titanic where he's like yelling at her, like, you're so stupid. You jumped off the lifeboat to be with me. You're so stupid. Let's make out while the grand staircase is flooding behind us. And I'm like, oh my God, get out. Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely romantic suspense.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's, one of those things like, if I was with a hot guy and I was getting shot at, would I stop to kiss him? Maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because what if you die? I mean, you gotta get one last hurrah before you go, right?
And he's in it to save me, so I might as well get a part. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Those can be fun, but those romantic suspense ones are always fun to listen to and read. Like I said, it's a good conversation with a device that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there a genre that you have yet to narrate in that you want to narrate?
I'm getting more into romantic comedies and I really enjoy those. I have yet to do a cozy mystery romance and I would really like to dabble in those as well. I haven't done one yet, but I would like to. And but yeah, probably just more romantic comedies. I really enjoy the fine art of comedic timing and being able to sort of hone in on that and explore it more. So I think that would be my and I've done a few recently, but I'm hoping to have more of those coming up.
Nice. Well, you've put it out there into the world. So authors.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Laurie is available for romantic comedy.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yes, and romantic suspense as well,
And just really any variety. Like
Yeah.
I'm just all about, I mean, I like the straight up, the romances where it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen approximately chapter 4. This is going to happen approximately chapter 8, that, and those are great. But it does get to a point after you've done a few of them in a row that you're just like, okay, but I need something to keep it fresh. And so just the more variety, the better.
Yeah.
And
so cozy mystery here and there, authors. Throw it over to Laurie,
Yes, that would be super fun.
Yeah.
So bonus if it's in the 20s.
Yeah. It's gonna, I mean, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, because when people think historical, it's automatically Duke,
Right.
And,
or like Civil War or like.
Oh, yeah. You get into that kind of history in the US. And technically the 1980s is technically considered historical now.
Oh, geez.
Oh, God.
Oh, heaven help us all.
I know. It's okay. It's like when the kids nowadays say, those that were born in the 1900s. I'm like, oh,
jeez. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, but I love the Roaring 20s and things like that. So I am happy that you said that. The Great Gatsby is one of my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, so it's
absolutely
fun. And it reminded me too, there's an event that's happening in September of this year called Allure. It's a book convention that's specifically for are you going to that?
I have thought about it. It's definitely on my radar. I have not made an ultimate decision yet.
Well, maybe this will help you.
Yeah.
So there's a party called Prohibition.
Oh.
Or you get to dress up like in the 1920s.
Oh. Yeah. That definitely is
bonus.
Definitely. When is it again? Remind me when.
September 24th, I think, like the couple of days there. And it's in Chicago. So it's good weather during that time frame.
And and that's not too far from me. So that would definitely it's been on my radar screen.
Okay.
That's not something I have, with COVID and everything.
Me too.
The full-time career kind of just took off for me during COVID. And so now I'm like, oh, I can like go to these things. Like
you can write off as work. It's a write-off.
Yes, exactly. So it's definitely been something that I have thought about. So
yeah. Well, I will send you some info and give you some information on that party, because as soon as you said that you love that, the 20s and stuff, I'm like, ooh, she would love going to that party.
Yes, absolutely.
Bonus that it's specifically about audiobooks. Bonus that there's going to be an array of authors from different genres. So you might pick up that cozy mystery. I'm just trying to get you to go because I want to hang out.
Like I'm definitely, and the more, that's the thing, the more I do these types of things and more of these types of interviews and the more networking and things, I'm definitely down. So yeah, I'll definitely look into it more.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And I totally get the hesitation because of the, what the world we've been living in as of late. This is also going to be my first event that I attend since this whole thing started. And there's been a couple of local stuff and I'm going, I'm not risking it.
And honestly, like I don't have that. I'm not that concerned anymore. It's just like almost like I'm conditioned to think that I can't leave my house.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, I can actually like, no, this is fine now. Like, so I definitely, I've been traveling some and I definitely don't feel like I shouldn't. It's just like, I forget that I can, if that makes any sense. It's
does. I'm as an introvert that is what they call a social extrovert. So I can flip it. So things like conventions and stuff, everybody swears I'm an extrovert. I'm like going, no, I'm going to disappear for the next couple of hours to recoup in the room upstairs.
I gotta recharge.
Yeah. So this has not been so bad for me as far as having to stay in there, but I'm like, oh crap, I need some vitamin D.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to people again.
I'm not a vampire. Okay.
I know, yeah. So I've had to push myself to kind of go out. Like yesterday I went to Target. So I'm like, so it's okay. And specifically to grocery shop because I had a gift card. So yay.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. But it was crazy busy and I'm going, I want home. It's quiet.
Oh, yeah. It's too peoply.
It's like that meme. Oh, people.
It's too peoply out here. I want to go home.
So I'm going to start conditioning. I'm trying to condition myself for this event as well, but it's also different, when you go out to like Target to go grocery shopping versus, oh my God, Laurie, it's so good to see, and kind of get, that hanging out perspective differently. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I do hope you go.
I am definitely going. I'm definitely looking into it. I've got a bunch of them on my radar screen, and that is at the top. So
nice. So now that we've talked about all this work stuff, and I know that you're in that constant reminder of, oh, that's right, I can't leave my house. What do you do for fun when you're not working?
Well, I love to travel. My husband and I both enjoy, we are definitely adventure people instead of stuff people. We prefer to hey, let's go. I say adventure. I'm not outdoorsy at all. When I say adventure, I mean going to New York instead of buying a new necklace. I would much rather go on a trip than
the experience versus the item.
Yes, exactly. I am not outdoorsy in the slightest. I will kill a plant by looking at it.
You're not jumping out of a plane either?
No. I enjoy mixed media art. I do a lot of collaging and things like that. And I I dabble in making my own cards and stuff, but I don't like to tell people I do scrapbooking because that seems way too perfect and everything. I like to call it art journaling because it's much more casual and just kind of hanging on to things that I like and then gluing them down in a book and writing a little caption about it type thing as a way of journaling. So that's probably my favorite relaxing activity. I'm still active in the theater community in my hometown, and I go to a lot of shows, and I still do a show here and there. So I'm going to be doing a show this summer, and so I still do that when I can find the time. But yeah, I guess just being active in the theater community and doing some creative journaling. I'm a huge movie nut. My favorite date night is to go to a movie. I will see it all, good, bad, action, comedy, it doesn't matter. I will go see it. But yeah, that's about it. I basically exercise every day so I don't die, not because I enjoy it. And I am completely the least so
yeah, for some reason when you said adventures, I'm going, oh, skydiving, snorkeling, jumping out of no.
I do like snorkeling. I have done that.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not I love swimming and water and all that. So that's accurate. But
okay. Well, see, that's also not as bad, as far as, jumping out of a plane.
Right. Yeah. I don't do the whole free fall thing. And it's not even fear of something bad happening to me. I just don't like that feeling in my stomach. So I would do it if I wasn't gonna feel like I was gonna puke.
For me, it's on the back of the neck. I get the sensation when there's a drop. So things like roller coasters and loops are not my thing.
Yep. Okay.
Yes, I get you. I mean, even the little baby drop in Pirates of the Caribbean is a bit for me.
Yeah.
Because that sensation, it's the back. It's not that I'm afraid of it. I know I'm going, Hello, in this
Right.
case, Disney. Hello. It should be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just
But
that feeling, and I'm like, oh my God, you know,
yeah,
nothing.
Splash Mountain is about it for me. Like I can do Splash Mountain, but
Uh-huh.
any drop more than that, I'm like, okay, no thanks.
See, I did that in 8th grade because I went with my best friend who I also had a crush on. So
Ah,
he's like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, I'm
right.
fine. And then, never again. And
No.
and then fast forward, talking about drops and that yours is Splash Mountain. So imagine being at Universal Studios and wanting
Yep.
to ride something and going, oh, that's a water ride, a little
Sure.
like river raft kind of thing. It should
Right.
be safe. So I started going to the Jurassic Park one, and it was great.
Ah,
I love that. I'm like, whoosh in water because I'm a Pisces, I'm all good. And then we're entering the building where you have the big T-Rex in front of you and you're going,
yep.
I'm not seeing anything going left, right, or through him. Oh, fuck.
Yep, we're just there we go.
Yeah.
We're just
Yep. I turned around and bit my husband on the shoulder as I'm going down. Come to find
yep.
out, it's the steepest drop in any of the rides in
Yep.
Florida.
Yep. That's
Yeah. So I feel you. I know you. Yeah, we're good there.
it's definitely a
So don't
oh
do that
man.
ride, okay? If you think
Yeah,
that's bad,
yeah.
don't do that ride.
That one would be, yeah,
That would be a
I
no.
yeah, no. Hard pass. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Do you read or listen to audiobooks for pleasure?
I don't as much as I used to, but I read whenever I'm on the treadmill. I prep a book or I'll read for fun. Usually, if I read for fun, it's almost always James Patterson because he's my favorite and it's light and easy. Anything that I read, I was a English and Spanish major in college. And a communications minor. So I read everything everywhere. I mean, I was reading all the time. And now that I don't have to, I'm like, okay, I mean, other than obviously my job, but like, yeah, but like now it's like, okay, I was a voracious reader growing up and now it's like, okay, now I do it for work and I don't really tend to like to do it for fun. But I have a few audiobooks that I prefer to read as opposed to listen, but I have a few that I have just because I like to keep up with what's going on in the industry and stuff like that. So I'll pick up one here and there. I'm a huge Anna Kendrick fan, so I have her autobiography on audio because she narrates it. So I snapped that up. If it's narrated by a celebrity that I really like, I do enjoy those because I like the person. So, but yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to bring work home. Technically, you are at home
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't, I don't tend to reach for instead of that kind of stuff, instead of a book, I feel like lately I've been reaching for like, crossword puzzles and those types of things instead of books. Like, because I'm totally a word nerd through and through. I like Wordle and all that stuff. So I tend to reach for
Nice.
those types of puzzles instead of like a long novel, I think.
Yeah, no, I get you. After a while, you're going, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So no, it's
I hit
good.
my quota. We're good.
Yeah. I read enough today. Technically, it was work, but still. What is your favorite holiday and why?
Oh, I would have to say, I guess Christmas, probably because I'm not a super like, I'm more of a spiritual person, I would say, than a religious person, but I just like it in terms of all of the celebrations and family and traditions and all those things. I'm a big tradition person. I really like to have like each holiday is, marked by different traditions, and my husband is a trooper, and he always puts up with all my little things that we do. And Christmas, of course, is full of traditions, and one that is a favorite of mine that we started is we have a cousin cookie day with all of my cousins, and we get together, and it's now cousins and second cousins because people have started having kids, and the little kids decorate cookies, and we just have fun. And I just like, the family aspect and getting together, and that's always the most fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely getting together and hanging out, but I love that you have the cousin stuff going on as well. Yeah, it's fun to have those traditions. Have you started any traditions of your own that you've done for you, kind of a thing in your immediate family?
I in recent years, I used to be a teacher before I switched to audiobooks full time, and I taught about Dia de los Muertos because I taught Spanish, and I started celebrating Day of the Dead with my husband, and we have a certain dish that we make every year. It was one of my cousins passed away a few years ago, and he was a huge fan of this potato dish that my mom made, and so we make it every year for Day of the Dead, and it's really fun. I really enjoy that time, and being able to, I like to teach my other family members about it because it's not something that I grew up celebrating, and I like to be able to share that with the rest of my family and helping to educate another generation about how it works and everything. And I just think it's really cool.
It is. I love the whole different cultures learning about each other and what we have in common and how we can implement certain things. Because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I have nothing in common. I'm like, no, we're all human beings. We have stuff in common. We just have to figure what that is. It's like in the Latin community, the favorite thing to do is like when we're talking about the foods, and they all have different names. And maybe the only thing that changes is the type of bean that they add to it.
No, yeah.
But it's just that same thing. Or we have something similar to it, but instead of being a little bit more liquidy, it's a little bit more dense and things like that. So it's fascinating for me when you have those conversations with other people and you're discussing those things that are quote unquote different, but are exactly the same concept. And so,
yeah, exactly. Just that. Yeah, I was fortunate that I was able to I studied abroad in Spain when I was in college.
Oh, nice.
And my real parents actually came over and met my host family that I was staying with. And they came over for a few days in the middle of the semester and met them. And even though they didn't speak a word of the same language, they were able to still communicate, and they had a lot of similarities. So that was cool. And I really love when I can bring that into audiobooks. There have been a few books where I'm able to say to the author, like, hey, I speak Spanish, and then they'll write a book later and they'll include a Spanish character just because they know I can speak Spanish, and then I can use that. So that's always really fun.
That is fun. I think a lot of the authors are now starting to be more diverse and inclusive of different types of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And they're adding things to it, whether it's a mobster or
right
or anything like that. It's different.
Yeah,
because there's nothing sexier that when and that's a conversation I've had too with the authors. We're like, well, when are we going to add the Spanish to this book? And I'm going, during the sexy stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing sexier than when he flips into that Spanish and he's saying things like querida, mi amor, las cosas que te voy a hacer, the things I'm going to do to you. It just sounds better,
Yep. Oh yeah. You can, it's like, and I don't know what it's the romance languages. I mean, they're called romance languages for a reason. It's like, man, oh God, they're so hot.
Yeah. It's like, that's when you add it, honey. That's when you add it.
Yeah.
That or when he gets really pissed off.
We need a little more picante.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's where we kind of go, it's again in romance language. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the other thing too that I think a lot of us have in common, regardless of our backgrounds and cultures, is music.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we love is when that song comes up, that it doesn't matter where you're at, who is around you. Either you're in the car, so you're going to belt it, or you're at a supermarket and it's in the classic station now because apparently it's been 20 years.
Yep.
What is that song that when it comes on, you're just going to have to sing along with?
So I have a very eclectic, I mean, I literally love all kinds of music. I grew up in a very musical, I mean, my dad was a singer and he also played the guitar. And, so I grew up in a very like diverse musical household. I was raised on Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, but my dad is a humongous fan of the band Toto. Like literally almost named me Rosanna.
Oh my goodness.
So that is my song. When Rosanna comes on, it does not matter where I am. It's for me. It's my song. And so even though that's not my name, like it's just like, oh, okay, this is on for me. And so I just have to kind of rock out to it no matter where I am.
Oh,
so Rosanna by Toto is one for a big, but I don't know. I really just love all kinds of different. I have such a weird, I mean, you name it, I like it. I'm currently in a huge like 2000s pop punk phase, like listening to all this like Good Charlotte and stuff, like from which was big when I was in high school. And now I'm like, okay. But I just, probably anything by Toto, Africa, Rosanna, all those, which I'm sure is a huge surprise to everyone, but yeah.
It's a thing. We all have that one song and it changes too. And sometimes there's just definitely more than one. I know that I'm like busting out a move and singing in the middle of the grocery aisle in the freezer section.
It just depends like what mood you're in, but that would probably be my number one, like fail safe right there.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's totally, I love knowing what that song is. Because if we ever do go to a convention together, I will save it on my phone because I do want to hear you belt it out.
Yes, I love it.
And B, now when I hear it, I'm gonna be like, oh, Laurie.
Yay.
But I totally get you on the whole eclectic thing. I'm the girl that on her playlist will have anything from Viking songs and so Nordic songs to Metallica here and there to Sammy Davis Jr. I'm all over the place, so I get it.
I'm a huge jazz fan too. Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, all those. So.
Yeah, the Rat Pack for me too. All that, crooning kind of a thing. Crooning, yeah. So anytime my kid gets my playlist, he's like, "Really, Mom?" And I'm like, "There's something there you're gonna like. I can guarantee you that. You've got to start scrolling."
Yeah, you gotta. We're gonna win you over one way or the other.
Oh yeah. No, the favorite part is now kids' days when they're busting out, especially with the little TikToks, and they're getting a sample from something. And they're like, this song is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, it was too when I was 12, or when I was 17, 20. Yeah. And they're like, no, it's just brand new. And I'm like, no, honey, here, Google it. That's what I say, that the fact that the 80s is considered historic now. Anyways. Not only is June audiobook month, for those that may not have realized that, it's also the kickoff of summer. What is your favorite thing about summer for you?
I would have to say just being anywhere near the water. I like going to the beach. I like being in the pool, just enjoying being from the Midwest. Like we have seasons. So, it's that finally we made it through the long winter and now it's finally warm, and just being able to enjoy. I'm not a super outdoorsy person, but I love to go to the beach. My husband actually proposed on the beach. So we have a favorite beach that we go back to, and, so just those memories and just, enjoying. I love like the fairs and the carnivals, and, there's a really good, burrito place not far from my house that we always go to, that's only open in the summer, so we'll go there and get burritos and then take it to the beach or whatever. So it's really lovely. So just water, and I would say
cool. You work with words all day long, and you did before even you got into audiobooks.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah. What is your favorite word? Not to be confused with favorite curse word, because that's the next part of the question. But what's your favorite word?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I really like the word moxie. My grandpa used to always say that I had moxie, and I just always thought it was such a cool word. And I being loving the 20s and 30s, I am all about anything nostalgic and vintage. So anything that was like popular back then, I'm always trying to like bring it back. So moxie is a big one. I also like the word idiosyncrasy because it's just fun to say.
Probably one that I get tongue tied on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be so focused on sounding it, making sound right, that I would just fuck it up. But yeah, it's a good word. Yeah, but I love moxie. I'm like, yeah, you definitely have moxie. So on the other side of the spectrum, what is your favorite curse word?
Oh, definitely fuck. Yeah, no, I was like such a goody when I was growing up that I'm fairly certain that some of my high school classmates would keel over if they knew that what I do now. But I like was super conscientious about not using curse words growing up. And then when I finally had this like awakening of like, oh, I can do this and I can say these words, and it is a completely harmless way of getting out my frustration without hurting anyone. It was like this big cloud had been lifted, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's so satisfying. It's like just you get the consonants in there, and you just, yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. It is. And so now that you're bilingual too,
yes,
I'm gonna have to ask, in Spanish, what is your favorite curse word?
Oh, well,
because we learned those first in any language. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. It was always a huge learning curve for me because I learned in high school, I learned predominantly Latin American Spanish, but then in college, most of my professors were actually from Spain, and then I ended up studying in Spain. And so then I learned a bunch of like Spanish curse words, and then, but they meant nothing to anyone that wasn't from Spain. So I like came home and was like using them thinking I was all badass and shit. And then like people are looking at me like, I don't even know what you're saying, because I'd be like in some, I'd be talking with my friends who like had, Mexican heritage or whatever. And they'd be like, I don't know what that means, because it's completely dialect specific. But the word joder, which is basically the F-bomb in Spanish. But it's also a lot more like acceptable. Like kids can say it. Like
no jodas.
Yeah. So like I think probably that. And there was a period of time after I got home from studying in Spain that I was saying it all the time. And finally my friends were like, stop, it's annoying. I don't know what that like, just you're done. So but yeah, definitely joder.
Yeah, it's funny too, because with the different dialects in some countries in South America, that is the equivalent of saying fuck. But
it is okay.
But at the same time, it's also the equivalent of saying something like damn, like stop, fuck, stop, stop it. One of those things. Yep, so depending on where you're from, it has those different connotations.
So it would translate for some, and
and not for others. So like I grew up, because my father was Cuban, I grew up with that word. And in Chile, sometimes they do use it as well. And again, in Cuba, it was like the equivalent of like damn. In Chile, it was fuck. And so in my house, I was like, damned if I do and damned if I don't. Because I was like using words, and it's like no seas pendejo, no seas huevón, and everything means something different depending on where you're coming from. So I also grew up with not saying any bad words. I was in high school, and then it was like fuck.
Woo, I'm free. I can say whatever I want.
And it's always good because when you're bilingual, you have even more words.
Yes, that is true. I have found though that since I've started narrating romance novels full time, I have to really watch myself, because I get so desensitized that I'll like go have lunch with my parents and be like, what the fuck? Oh shit. I mean, I'm like, oh guys, sorry. Okay. My bad.
I'm like, when I go to Disney, I have to watch it. Or when I'm surrounded by kids, I'm like, baloney.
Oh,
bicycle sticks,
sugar jets. Oh man,
sugar daddy. No, wrong daddy. But no, that is a good one. That is a good one. Before we go, Laurie, can you tell us what you're currently working on and what you have coming up next that of course you can share?
Sure. I have, let's see, I've got my calendar right here. So my next one, I'm working on one by Jill Sanders coming up. I'm working my way through a series for her. And the next one I have to do is called Dare to Love, and it is the Pride, Oregon series. It's really sweet. They're really like, it's a small town full of people that you just wish were like your best friends. Like they're all just really, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely got its naughty moments. It is a true romance with lots of sexy parts, but it's this whole community of people, and each book in the series is about a different couple. So yeah, that one's coming up next. But Jill's books, and then right now, and then we'll see what else comes up after that. I just did one called Strictly Business, which will be out soon. That is by, who is that by? I'm looking that one up. Ruth Cardello. I co-narrated that one with Rock Engel. That one will be up soon. It's available for pre-order right now. But yeah, any authors who are listening, I'm currently building up my schedule. And I just another one that just got released was it's either about to be. I think we just sent it off to quality control. One that I co-narrated with Frank Ryan by Jolie Vines, that is called Picture This, which was one of her Scottish series. Frank Ryan is a fantastic Scottish narrator, so if you have a Scottish thing, then check that one out. And yeah, I have a bunch that are like going to be out very soon. Also, one that I am currently working on as well that should be out soon is The Journey Home by Kelly Elliott as well. So yeah, I had to look and see like what is actually on pre-order and what is not out yet and all that stuff.
And it's okay. As soon as we hang up, 5 of those are going to pop up on Audible as released today. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not kidding.
You're like, wait, that wasn't supposed to come out until literally like in another month. We have it scheduled. We have all this marketing. Nah, forget it, girl. You're good.
Yeah.
It happens. It's the world that we're currently living in. But those all sound great. I'm curious about that. I love Jill Sanders and her writing. So, but I have not checked out her Pride, Oregon series. That's been on my list.
It's an older one of hers that she wanted to get caught up on audio. I did the summer series for her. It's it's the Wildflower series. So the summer, they all have summer in the title, summer heat, summer nights, etc. And I did all those for her. And then she reached out to me earlier this year and said, hey, would you also be interested in this one? So it's been really fun to get back into. I love her writing. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, it's really good writing. Well, thank you for sharing all those lovely goodies that we're going to be getting soon. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And thank you, Laurie, for being part of this year's Audiobook Lovin Series. Greatly appreciate you and
thank
your
you so much for having me.
Yeah. I hope you've had fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everyone for listening. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to have a bigger social media presence. So I'm working on that. So be sure to follow and like and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you for hanging out with us today because it's been lots of fun, and hopefully you enjoyed this interview and chat as well as the whole series. And I will be including all of her social media links, so you don't have to go hunting for those. We'll find those links over at Audiobook Lovin Series page at Viviana, Enchantress of Books. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you for joining us in the Audiobook Lovin Series, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, as well as the series. We've included audio samples of our guests' work within the post for you to check out. Please make sure to visit the main page, link within the post, to learn more about the series, the authors, and the narrators. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to the series if you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana, Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you've enjoyed this program.